Hello and welcome to Crafting for Profit Live. This is episode 14. And today we're going to talk about the heart of your business. We're going to talk about how to build a craft business that reflects your values and then how to communicate those values to your customers. So if you're joining us on the YouTube Live or any live platform, welcome, welcome. You can ask us questions within the live chat. However, we only pull like some of the questions that are relevant and we'll pull those towards the end of the episode. Now, if you have off topic questions, questions that aren't about business values, there is a link in the description below the video or in the podcast notes, and you can fill out the form and ask us random questions. And we do episodes occasionally where we will just answer your questions. So be sure to submit those in the form.
And then, as always, we ask you to be sure to rate and review the podcast and share this episode with friends. I saw that we got a couple of new reviews since we did our last episode. And guys, it just brings me so much joy to get those reviews. So if you haven't been over to your favorite podcasting network and reviewed our podcast, we would really appreciate it. All right, I'm going to introduce our speaker. Her name's Beth Eaton, and she's from the Ruffled Daisy. Beth says her life has been a mix of bright and dark moments, and it's through those moments that she discovered the magic of creativity. It became her safe space, her way to cope, and eventually it guided her to where she is today. So can you introduce yourself, Beth?
Hey, I am Beth. I am the founder and the creativity behind the Ruffled Daisy. It really started just as a blog several years ago, where when I was a stay-at-home mom, I just kind of needed a creative outlet, and so that's kind of how it started. And it was a hobby for many years, and then just about 6 years ago, I transformed it into a business. And so we focus on a lot of things. I take DIY to a much deeper level than what someone on the street would maybe say what DIY is. I teach women how to infuse creativity into every aspect of their life, whether it be in their home, through their relationships, any of those things, even in their businesses. So I do online creative mentoring. I do DIY tutorials. I love painting. And so that is kind of, if you dig down deep, that is the base of what I do. But it just, as a creative, we do all the things. So everything I do has an intention to really inspire people, to nurture their creativity, to maybe teach them a new concept, teach them a new skill, teach them a new craft that ultimately just helps them transform their life. And that is where the term, the quote, the phrase, whatever you want to call it, DIY in your life actually means to me. So
that definitely leads us into question one. So when you're talking about DIY in your whole life, not just your business, can you tell us a little bit more about what that means to you and what does it look like for you on a daily basis?
So DIY is basically you are taking control of every part of your life. It's so easy to walk through life and just let things happen to you. And then we wonder why we are where we are at sometimes, why we may feel stuck, why we may not be growing maybe at the speed we want to, whether it's personally or professionally. So it's more than just crafting or home improvements, things like that. It's about shaping your world to fit what your vision is, what your mission is, what your needs are. And so for me, on a daily basis, DIYing is constantly evaluating, adjusting the way I look at everything. I actually wrote a book that just got launched May 1st, and it's been on my heart for about 5 years, and it's been written for about 3 years. And I finally put it out into the world this year. And the core of the book is basically taking every experience you have in your life and figuring out how to use that to propel you forward, to move you forward, instead of the why me, all of that sometimes is just, life is tough. So I apply DIY to my personal development I set daily intentions. Practicing gratitude is huge. I know that many of you guys have probably heard that, listing, 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for every day, which I will tell you, I probably don't do every day, but there is huge value to just practicing gratitude, continuously learning new skills. just all of the things that help you in business, help you in your heart relationship with yourself and the relationships that you have with other people. So, DIY just as a whole, it's the whole life for me. Yeah, we nurture the hearts and nurture the relationships is also a nurturing and the creativity in your home. So,
I love that because I feel like a lot of times we kind of just are like, oh, I need to DIY that over there. But when you look at it more holistically, it just gives you a little bit more agency in everything that you're doing. All right. So, can you share a specific moment when you realized the importance of aligning your business with your personal beliefs?
so about 5 or 6 years ago, I went through a very, very tough time in my life and it tested me. It was during that time that I really began to understand the mission that God put on my heart and the importance of aligning everything I was doing with my core beliefs. There may be some of you that picked this up really early, but I was a late bloomer and did not pick that up until later in life. And so that challenging time that I went through, I really had to sit and take a hard look at my life. And I had to ask myself if I was truly living and working in a way that reflected who I was and what I valued most. Because at that point in time, I was building this business. It wasn't a hobby anymore. I knew that I had something that I wanted to offer the world. I just didn't really know what that looked like. And that dark time of personal struggles, business struggles, all of those things, it started to become clear to me that I needed to fully integrate my beliefs in my business. So I began to shift my focus from more doing and actually being. And that probably sounds so simple and something that it's so easy for us to do, but it's really not. Um, being true with yourself, being honest with your audience, and being able to be a guide to others as they go through their life journeys, helping them DIY their life journeys, because we're ultimately all on the same journey. We all have struggles. We all have transformations that are waiting ahead of us. We all have a reason that we are here on this earth. And so aligning my business with my personal beliefs didn't just change the way I operated. It literally transformed the impact that I have and that I can offer with the world that actually you have, everybody has. So that moment of realization was pivotal. I will say it's still hard. I mean, just when you begin to understand your mission and you begin living in your values and your purpose, it doesn't magically make life easy. But it helps those tough times that we all go through that is pushing us to our next level. It helps us navigate it a little bit more, just a little bit more humbly and a little bit more, what's the word? Um, with more ambition and belief in yourself because you do have what huge value that you are bringing into the world. So
Yeah, so I feel like hopefully people are listening to this podcast and they won't be that late bloomer, but I feel like a lot of people are. They start their business and then at a later point in time realize that, hey, I need to make sure this business aligns with my values. And it would have been so beneficial for me, at least, to think about this stuff when I was starting out on this journey. I feel like it just makes everything easier, even, like, just making those business decisions with intention and with always those values in the back of your mind.
absolutely.
All right, so how did your business change after you honed in on this mission?
So before it would literally be like throwing spaghetti at a wall and just hoping it stuck. And I will be honest, there are days it still feels that way because I'm a creative, and I don't use that really as a cop out word, but we are creative. We were just talking about this before the episode started, just how we want to do all the things. We have the creativity to do this and that. And so even though that is still a little bit of a challenge, it helped me clarify my mission so it's not like that every day. I know when I'm heading into every day what my ultimate purpose is. And it's made everything fall into place a little bit more. Every decision becomes more purposeful because I can see where it aligns with something that want to implement in the future, or it aligns with something that, someone else may be implementing and trying to do in their life. So ultimately, when you're doing that, the thing that was probably the most impactful for me is that it brought a deeper sense of satisfaction and purpose. I know that before that, I was always like, why? What's my why? There are so many trainings out there on trying to figure out what your why is, because it's a question that a lot of people ask. We are so blessed to be in a world where we can create online businesses, that we have the ability to do that. And a lot of people jump into it and they don't really understand your why. And so, like you said earlier, knowing this beforehand really helps you just propel forward faster, and not even propel forward faster, but just serve your audience and serve your community more. So just the deeper sense of satisfaction and the purpose in my work, knowing that there is a purpose I'm serving and it's to the community that I'm serving.
I think once because I've gone through and done my values and, created a mission statement and all these things as well, but it was only in the last couple of years. But man, does it make decision making so much easier? I
Yes.
feel like before it was like I would hem and haw and like go through all these things. But now if it doesn't point to, I call it like my North Star. If it doesn't point toward my North Star, then it's an easy no. And then things that automatically point directly at it, easy yes. And I feel like when you don't really know what you're aiming for, when you don't really know your core values, or you don't know what you want to build with your business or any of these things, it becomes much more difficult to make decisions, because then you're making decisions like in the moment, or you're making decisions based on vibes, or you're making decisions only based on money or panic, or like all of these things that don't have you making good decisions. So I do feel like it has definitely just made decision making overall a lot easier in my business.
Yes. And we all do that. We all have made decisions in panic modes. We've all done that. And so the biggest thing that I would say to take away from that is to just give yourself grace. I mean, you're going to screw up along the way. You're going to make decisions that you're like, wow, that is probably not what I should have done. And so just giving yourself grace as you work through that.
And it's almost like when you make decisions in panic mode, oftentimes it's the wrong decision and takes you completely off course. I can't even tell you how many times I've been off course with this business. I've been completely on a separate tangent that was not at all part of the values or where I should have been headed. And I will say, so your comment about those trainings that say like, find your why, it triggered something, because I remember early on doing one of those and thinking, well, my why is to make money. That's the why, right? Like that's the bottom line. That's the why. And that is not the why. That totally wasn't the why. So, yeah, like digging deeper into the actual why behind your business. And, for me, very early on, I wanted to help support other small businesses. And at some point, Corey and I realized we had that same value. And that's sort of where this podcast came from. So once we realized that we both wanted to do that, and how can we help support those people? How can we reach more people? And the podcast came out of that decision. And it was based solely on like our values and where we wanted to go.
I love that.
Oh, nope. What question are we on? This
Question
is the part
4.
This is the part we totally delete out of the podcast, and everybody ignores me. Corey's off on her own tangent again. All right. So what are some challenges you faced while building a business that stays true to your values?
Oh, number one, first and foremost, is that it's never a one-time decision. It's a challenge every day, because we all have things that are put in our path that get us distracted, pressures that just throw us off course sometimes. So whether that is the biggest thing, is just staying true to your values and knowing that it's something that you have to remain consistent with every day. And then finding the balance between staying idealistic about your values and realistic about your business needs. So what does that mean? So sometimes what's best for your business on paper doesn't really feel right ethically in action. So navigating that can be a little bit tricky, and it has some tough decisions. And all of this is just like DIY in your heart, figuring out what that looks like for you, and just staying in constant connection with that. Staying in line with your values is not just business strength, it is a huge emotional strength. I don't know any business owner that their business has not been emotional for them. I mean, there's a huge emotional strength that comes with it, running a business. And so the pressure to compromise, how many times have we looked at other people and see where they are, and it could make us compromise where we are. And so just staying true, it takes resilience, conviction to really stay the course during all of those tough times. Every day is a new set of decisions. Every day is a new set of opportunities. And so staying mindful, seeking support when you need it. In places like this, in small groups, coaching groups, mentorships, anything like that, really, if it's the right group, it's going to help you kind of just reconnect with those core reasons for starting your business, starting your journey, whatever that looks like for you.
I think we can also talk a little bit about like your gut in this as well, because we've talked about it on the podcast before, that if something is making you go ick, like inside your body, then it's probably not aligning with your values. And I think sometimes, especially I think as women, a lot of times, I realize there are some men who listen to our podcast, sorry guys, but I think as women, we tend to do a lot of things based on our gut intuition. And I think sometimes our intuition is just so right, right? It's just saying like, you're trying to make a decision and you're like, this would make me a lot of money, or this would get my face out there or whatever, but there's something in your gut going, ugh, right? And you have to like listen to that as well, and just understand that your values are not only just something you write down on paper. You can actually feel that in your bones. You can feel it in your stomach or your shoulders or wherever you hold your stress. And I think not ignoring that is really important.
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe on the opposite end of that, I myself have struggled with being a huge people pleaser in life, but that translates into my business. Like, I want to please all the people. I want to please the people that watch my videos. I want to please, the people that buy my products, but I also want to please like the brands, the other creators. I want to please everyone. I just want everyone to be happy. But it's also business-wise, sometimes you have to stand up. You have to say no to things, which is very, very tough. You have to, stand up for yourself, what you believe in, and just be really assertive. And that can be really hard for someone like me that's a people pleaser. I think it could be hard for a lot of us. So just digging deep, trying to like those mindset things, trying to shift your mindset a little bit. Everyone is not going to be happy all the time. Everyone is not going to love you, but that's okay. You're sticking by your values. You're growing your business, and you have to learn to like, I feel like I had to learn to be okay with not pleasing everyone, but doing it in a nice way. I always try to be a nice person, but I'm not going to please everyone.
Well, I will say, adding on to that, is that when you are like, I still love people. I still love pleasing people. I want to make someone smile. But the fact of the matter is you're not going to make everyone smile. There are going to be people out there that just don't connect with you, that you aren't going to be able to please. And so if you are able to stay true to yourself in doing that, the community that you can build around you is phenomenal. I will tell you that since I have been able to do that and be confident in what I bring to what I am able to offer, it just builds a community that is more wholesome, more valuable, because you are truly being true to yourself. And they know when something doesn't resonate. They're going to pick it up as well if you aren't. And one of the cool things about that is that they're going to hold you accountable too, because you've been very open and honest with the community. And so it's great to have that, because they can also hold you accountable when it's hard, because it is hard.
Yeah, I think Angie and I, just thinking about we have Facebook groups for all of our camps. And we have, things that you're not allowed to do in our Facebook groups. Like, you're not allowed to be racist or bigoted, or like we have all these things. And that just allows us to quickly shut down anytime anybody is basically we basically say, be kind. Like, that's the the top thing, be kind. But I mean, it's an automatic, we're kicking you out of the group the second you are racist or bigoted or any of these things. And I think that because of that, our group has become a much safer place than some of the other crafting groups, because we automatically know that part of our values is not tolerating people's intolerance, basically. And people will be in our group and feel safe. We want people to feel safe in our groups. And that is something that's really important to both of us. And so we are on top of any time anybody is saying anything that basically won't make somebody feel safe, because we want to build a bigger table for crafting. I feel like there's just, crafting can kind of get segmented, right, into this type of craft or this type of craft or this type of person doing this type of craft or this, whatever it is. And we want our group to be like a space that is safe for everybody. And so that's kind of one of our values that we bring. And I feel like it's done us really well, because people know in our group that they're going to be safe, and that's important to us.
Yes. And if you set that from the get-go, like that's a standard in the groups that I run and in the workshops that I run. And I've never, ever, ever had anyone where I've had to say, okay, this isn't what we do. I'm not saying it won't ever happen, but if you are able to remain true to your values, you are going to connect and you're going to bring the right people in your circle that are just going to help push everybody up. Rising rises all. I don't know the quote, but I mean, I know.
It's like our number one quote on this podcast.
Every episode, you get a rising tide lifts all boats. So you get it in every episode. So Beth, thank you. You got that plug in this episode.
You win the special prize for getting it into this episode. I swear it's been every episode. It's now becoming like a running joke. It's so funny.
That's funny. It's so true, though. It's so true.
It's true.
You're able to surround yourself with a community of people who have the same values. I mean, it's just what happens. It's absolutely true.
And you don't get mired in the yuck, right? You don't get mired in just icky stuff. And I just prefer that. I don't like the ick.
All right. So it's been a while. So we are going to talk about our merch shop for a few seconds. So it's been a while since we mentioned our merch shop, and we want to mention it for all of you, just in case you need some cute shirts, cute mugs, cute stickers. Be sure to shop our merch shop and get all the things that celebrate the small crafty businesses. If you are on YouTube, I am wearing one of my shirts, so it says crafty. And Corey is not. I can tell by the look on her face.
I'm not. I'm so sorry. I should have changed. I'm wearing my standard YouTube black t-shirt. If you know it on my YouTube, I just am constantly dressed in the same exact thing. It's just easier. But yeah, we love our merch shop. We've had some good, great products there. You can get stickers, you can get all sorts of stuff. We have a fairly wide range of sizes as well, which is great. And if you just want to celebrate your small business or being crafty, my current favorite shirt that we have is actually from our last camp that we did, which was Sublimation Camp. It has a picture of a heat press and it says hot stuff. So I feel like you guys all need that shirt.
I should have picked that one instead of this one.
It's so good.
So anyway, if you want to support the podcast, I have put the QR code. If you are on YouTube, you can scan that QR code, check out all the merch. And if you are on the podcast, you can shop at link.craftingcamps.com/merch. And that's link.craftingcamps.com/merch, MERCH. All right, back to the program here. Okay, the next question. Can you share any practices or exercises that helped you gain clarity on what truly matters to you, and both life and business here?
So the first thing is continual reflection. It doesn't mean that you have to sit down every day and journal. I know that is intimidating for people. And to be honest, I love journaling, but I don't do it. I don't do it every day. I don't even do it once a week. But when things just start feeling off, as women, we are very in tune to our bodies. We know when things just feel like you were talking about earlier, just gunky. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, something is maybe not where you need to be going, but you just need to reconnect a little bit more with yourself, with your values, just kind of come back to home base. And so having regular reflection is something that is super important to me. And you can do that through so many ways. I'm a continuous learner. I love learning. And so just educating yourself through podcasts like this, through books like the one that I just, through seminars, through all the things, and to make sure that you're nurturing not only your personal side, but your professional side, or vice versa. I know sometimes, a lot of times as business owners, we focus so much on the professional side of it that we tend to forget our personal side of it. And that is actually what really, I don't want to say that that's really what pushed me into my struggles of several years ago, because I was not honoring the values personally. I was just focusing on the professional things. And so making sure that you're just constantly connecting with home base is really, that's the biggest thing.
I really like that, because I think a lot of times we think that part of our life, our personal part of our life, is just going to kind of run itself while we put all of our time and energy into the business. And it's especially hard at the beginning if you're building a business in your margins, right? If you have a full-time job and you're trying to build a business in the evenings or in the mornings, or any of these things where you are actually taking time away from, whether it's your family or your friends, your church, your groups, sports, whatever you're doing in your off hours. If you're building a business in your off hours while also having a full-time job, that just doesn't give you a lot of margin for family or any of those things. So I think especially the earlier on, the more purposeful you need to be. After a while, it becomes routine. Like for me now, I just don't work on the weekends, and it's not a question anymore. I'm full-time. I can close my door. My office is separate from my house. It's very easy for me to set those boundaries now. Whereas in the beginning, when I was working out of a bedroom, which was right next to my twins' nursery, the lines were much more blurry. And so I do feel like prioritizing that family, especially in the beginning, when you don't have the ability to set bigger boundaries, is really important.
Yeah, and in the beginning, it can almost feel like you're drowning, right? So you were just trying to tread water. You're just trying to keep your head above water. And so you are making decisions based on just keeping yourself afloat rather than reflecting back on your values. And we're guilty of it. We're not saying that we did not do that in the beginning, because we totally did. But take our experience that you don't want to do that, because it can lead you down a path that you don't want to go in. So setting those values early and making the decisions with purpose almost makes the business feel better, and you don't feel so much like you're treading water. Maybe you can use some of those things and start saying no to things that don't fit your values, don't fit your purpose. And then those are things you don't have to do. And maybe that is part of what keeps you up, keeps you afloat without feeling like you are going to drown the next day, because you don't know how you're going to do all these things that go into this small business you're just starting.
And half of the time, you don't even know what those things, you don't even know what you're up against, because it's all so brand new. So it's a journey. And that's why through all of this, that's where just the DIY, I'm DIYing my business. And when you're doing that, you are growing yourself personally. It's not just professionally.
And I think, like you said before, oops, hold on. My phone is ringing. Okay, Angie, edit that out. Sorry. It's got music playing in my head all of a sudden. Now I have to remember what I was going to say. I literally cannot remember. Okay, keep going. Angie, cut that whole bit.
I'm not the only one that does that.
No, it totally went out of my brain. Oh, I remember. Okay. You were saying earlier that you should have grace for yourself, right? Because we're all going to make decisions that don't necessarily align with our values. And one of the things I like to remind myself of, and I think we've talked about this before on the podcast, is every day we are making decisions with the information we have available. And we may get 2-3 months down the line, 2-3 years down the line, and go, that was a bad decision. But it wasn't a bad decision in the moment. And you need to kind of give yourself grace for that. There are so many things that I have done that I realize now were probably not that they went against my values, but they just probably weren't worthwhile. But they felt worthwhile at the time. They felt like something I should be doing. And with the information I had at the time, they were good decisions. And I find it very hard to sort of forgive myself or give myself grace, or whatever language you want to put around it. But I have to remind myself, that was a good decision at the time with what I had. Things have changed, new technology has come out, or new, different things have come out or whatever. And now I wouldn't make that same choice, but it was the right choice at the time.
Yes, it is. all a growth process. And that's what I think when some people, well, there are so many people that are going to say, well, it's when I make it here, this is the goal. When I get here, things are going to be better. When I get here, things are going to be better. And it's literally, you're never there. It's always a continual process, always giving yourself grace and just learning about yourself, learning about life around you and all of the things.
Yeah, I still say when I get there, things are going to get better. When I get there, still.
Still, same. And I'm like, and I know as I'm saying it, like, clearly there will just be another thing around the corner, Corey, but here you are, still
Yep.
saying it.
We're human. We all do it.
All right. So, what advice would you give to someone who is just starting out and struggling to identify what their core values are?
Identifying what your core values are. Number one, like figure out what makes you joyful. So think back to times when you felt fulfilled, because they're there. It may take a little bit of digging if you are in a really tough spot right now, but what made you happy? What were you doing? Who were you with? And so those can often be clues to what you value most, what your core beliefs are. Second, look to role models. I know for myself personally, I have been in a mastermind for 3 years. The first 2 years I was in one, and this year I transitioned to a different one. And they both served different things for me. The first one that I was in for a couple years, it served what I needed at that time, personally and professionally, and still learn a ton from that mentor. And now I'm in a different one, a different season. It's serving different things. So look to role models. What do they possess that you want in your life? What is it and that's just going to help you emulate what is inside of you a little bit more. So those traits that we admire in others usually reflect the values that we want to uphold in ourselves. Maybe we aren't holding ourselves to that standard, but we admire that in them. And so it's going to challenge us to uphold ourselves to that. Next, asking yourself challenging questions. And this one's a little bit hard because we think we ask ourselves challenging questions, but we don't all the time. So just diving deep. What would you stand for if it made you unpopular? I mean, that's a big one. Popularity, all social media is like a huge popularity contest. And someone told me that the first year I was in one of my masterminds. I'm like, you're actually right. Like, I never even thought about it that way. And so what would you stand for, even if it was unpopular? You didn't care if you were disliked, for lack of a better word, for something that you stood for. What values do you want your children and your loved ones to live by? That can help you bring your true values into focus a little bit more. And then just experimenting and learning. We touched on this a little bit, but it's okay to not have all the answers right now. We don't. No one does. And so life is always about learning, growing, and allowing yourself to try new things. If you're like, okay, I thought that was aligning with my values and it's just not really kind of what I'm feeling. And so it's okay to shift. Identifying your core values and staying with them is not a one-time thing. It's a journey. And that's what I think, again, just goes back to being patient and giving yourself the grace to just grow into those and nurture them and make them a bigger part of your life day by day as you move forward.
Man, that question about what values would you want your kids to have? Oh, that is a good question, because that gets down to the meat of it. And if you don't have kids, it could be what do your nieces and nephews or any other kids you might have in your life, like what do you want them to grow up, believing about themselves? And that's a question. I mean, I can say all the things about myself, but when you start talking about my boys, then I'm like, oh, that's a whole different level of value.
It really is, because they are the heart of us. This summer was particularly challenging for my son that is going to be a sophomore, and as a mother and just helping guide him through just the range of emotions that he was going through with the medical things that he had going on. It was so cool to just see him grow as the man that he's going to be. And so I was able to, my husband and I just pat ourselves on the back a little bit. And it's okay for you to do that. It's okay for you to say, okay, I'm doing good here. I'm on the path that that I'm supposed to be on. There's clarification. God gives you clarification on all the time, and so yeah, that's a big one. What do you want your kids to be, and what are you showing them they should be?
Yeah, because if you're not behaving in the way that you would like to show them, then that is a quick check on your own values. If you're doing something that's maybe a little bit sketchy to make a little extra money, would you want your kid doing something a little sketchy to make a little bit of extra money? No, we probably don't want that. So that's a really great check.
Yep.
And I was going to add, for those that are struggling with their values and maybe digging deeper into these questions, it's okay to set some values and in a month go a little deeper, reevaluate them, set some more. In a month, dig a little deeper. So perhaps you do some journaling, some reflection over the course of time, dig deeper, because it can be a struggle, I feel like, in the beginning to dig that deep and to get down to really what the values are that I want to reflect. All right. Next question. Can you share any tips for maintaining consistency in your values while scaling your business?
So this kind of goes back to what you were talking about, like what you do in your groups, just building the community. So just making sure that your values are reflected in everything that you do, maintaining consistency. As you scale, you're going to bring people in that are going to be maybe VAs, maybe they're going to work personally alongside of you, whatever that looks like. But just making sure that your values align with them. Number one, it's going to be a nightmare if it doesn't, because there's no way that you can stay true to your values if they don't hold some of those same values. And leading by example. My community is the amazing one it is because of the example that I've shown them. They know what's expected, basically. So just consistently demonstrating that, and staying connected to your customer. I will tell you, as you scale, that is hard to do in the online space. I remember, in social media, especially on Facebook, they're like, respond to the comments, it helps build community and all of that. And as your business is growing, that can be a little bit harder to do. That may be a task that you're handing off, because as a business owner, you want to be working on $100 an hour tasks versus $5 an hour tasks. And that can be a challenge to stay connected to your customers' needs when you're handing off some of that. You don't understand what Karen may be going through because you aren't in the comments every day or whatever. So just making sure that you're staying consistent and being able to just stay in close contact within reason with your customers. And then just again, always coming back to home base and reconnecting with what your business means to that customer, what your business means to that business partner, that employee, whatever that looks like.
All right. So I haven't seen any questions come through other than somebody said that the QR code isn't working if you're on the YouTube Live.
It may be on the Facebook. Facebook may have messed it up, but it is working.
Facebook may have messed it up. Sorry, Cheryl. But you can go to link.craftingcamps.com/merch instead. But we are going to take any last minute questions in the comments section. So if you have any questions about finding your values, any of that sort of thing, you can leave those for us. And then I'm going to ask Beth our last question, and then we'll get to answering some of those questions. So what would you say to someone who is hesitant to build a business based on their values because they fear it won't be profitable?
So anything can be profitable. That's my first thing. Anything can be profitable, especially if you are living in your mission and consistently working and living in your values. But most important, just do it. Do it scared. You're not going to know all the things. And you can't use that you don't think it can be profitable, because then you're focusing on the money aspect of it. And so it's about creating something meaningful that resonates with you and your audience. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it feels risky, but the authenticity that you're able to bring to the table is truly what's going to set you apart from a crowded a crowded social media space, a crowded market, whatever you want to look at that as. And so people in this day and age, and I think it really shifted when COVID, we all went through that nightmare. People are drawn to businesses that stand for something. There is the human connection to me is greater right now. And so if you're able to just maintain that human connection, that's gonna serve you tenfold, and it's gonna definitely make you profitable, not just financially, but personally inside your heart. So, and then gathering support. Again, things like this, reaching out to like-minded entrepreneurs, joining groups that just help you build a values-based business, one that's rewarding for you, your family, all the things. But do it. Do it scared. Do it because it matters. Do it because it's your purpose. But most importantly, do it because it matters. And the rest is going to follow with hard work and persistent. It still may not be easy. It's never going to be easy, but it's going to come.
I think you can too. I mean, you will attract your customer, right? You will attract the people whose values align with yours. So I keep teasing the fact that I have like this little side hustle that I'm not telling you guys about yet, but I have certain stickers in my shop and they cater to a certain type of person. And people came into my craft booth that I did recently so excited about those stickers because they met each other. Like we met on a values level because these stickers were specifically about something that you hold as valuable. And it was so great because I was really connecting one-on-one with people who actually shared my values to the point where I connected with some of those people to just become friends. And that was pretty amazing to me because it's really hard to make friends, but if you have something like some sort of values that you're really sharing with your audience and that sort of thing, you connect on such a deeper level. And that's really, really amazing.
Yeah. And that deep connection leads to repeat customers as well. Like those people are coming back. They are coming back to you. And we did a whole episode on brand stories with Jennifer Maker and telling your brand story. And that goes back to what Beth was talking about. People want to hear your story. They want to hear your values. They want to hear how you're incorporating those into your business. They want to hear all of that stuff because it makes them purchase from you the first time, come back again and again, tell their friends about this amazing business they found that has this amazing thing. And hey, they also have these values, which is amazing. So I feel like it wraps it up into a whole package. The brand story really wraps it up for people and just makes you more memorable. And we talk tons about standing out in a crowded market. This handmade space is crazy competitive. I mean, let's just face it. And this type of thing is what is going to make you stand apart from all those other people that are making the exact same thing you are. Like this is the type of thing that makes you stand out.
It also makes you stand out from AI, which we've talked about quite a bit as well.
Yes.
AI does not have a heartfelt set of values. It does not have something to connect with on a deeper level. It's just spitting out robot information. It may be pretty robot information, but it's still robot information. And so when you can connect to somebody's story or their values or their mission, or maybe if they have a cause that they're talking about, whatever it is, that's a way that you will never be able to connect with AI with. It's just impossible.
It goes along like like I said, I teach people how to paint a lot. Painting is my passion. And when I'm doing a workshop or I'm trying to teach a class and somebody is saying, I can't do that. I can't do that like you. Number one, it's always usually before they've tried. Or after they've done it, they were like, but it doesn't look like you. And for those of you that are trying to stand out in the marketplace, it's not going to. And that's what I tell them. Listen, your paint print is just like your fingerprint. It is all unique. It is all different. And so you have to claim you. You have to claim what you are bringing to the table, even when it's not like you think it should be. And that's going to help you number one, just believe in yourself a little bit more. But we all have a unique business fingerprint. And so if you're able, and that's pretty much kind of what I would call just honing in with your values and your mission. It's your business fingerprint, just like your paint print. You don't want it to look like everybody else. And so figure out what that looks like for you and embrace that.
All right, we're going to have Angie look through the comments to see if there are any questions. And while she does that, Beth, can you talk a little bit about a little deal that you have for us?
So I have 25% off in the shop that I have given. You can use the code Crafting for Profit. And what are you going to find in the shop? So the shop is constantly evolving. The main thing I do is DIY kits. I offer some affiliate links, not quite wholesale, but if you wanted to affiliate some of the kits and sell them on your own, I can teach you the skills to create beautiful sellable projects that even if you painted them and maybe sold them at craft shows, door hangers, stuff like that, I teach you how to make them pretty and how to bring them to life. And then educational resources, I offer paint classes on there, tutorials, things that can guide you not only through refining your craft, but also the artwork. So there are resources designed to boost efficiency, creativity, all the artwork stuff that we talk about. I have some private memberships in there that you can look at on the website too, just where we dig into this stuff a little bit more and get the gunk out of the stuff that just weighs us down on a daily basis.
So you can go to her site. We gave you a special Crafting Camps link. It's link.craftingcamps.com /Daisy, DAISY, and you can save 25% off Beth's entire store using the code Crafting for Profit. We will have that down in the YouTube description as well as the podcast notes.
Okay, I'm going to pull up a couple things here. First of all, I want to highlight this comment from Debbie. She was talking about that she loves that you told us to do it scared. And I just wanted to pull this up because I want to highlight that as well. Business decisions are scary regardless of what decision you're making. Like we're talking about values today, but regardless of the decision you're making, it's all scary. Let's just face it. You have to do it scared, I feel like.
Yeah, it's all you are navigating in uncharted waters. Owning a business has never been done. And so like going forward. And so it's all you're going to do it scared probably more often than you're not. Unfortunately, I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
It's so true though. I mean, and I think we talked about this on our last episode. Angie and I both needed to get a reseller license. And I was like, oh, I got to sit down and do this. I don't want to do it. I was so stressed out about it. And it took me literally 5 minutes and it was approved. And it was just one of those things where I'm like, I've been doing this now full time for 11 years. And I still have moments where I'm like, ugh, I just don't want to. I just don't want to. And you just have to buckle down and get it done because there's just going to be parts of your business that are scary. There's going to be parts of business you don't want to do. Like, do I want to go out and get a reseller license? Not really. Am I going to? Yes. And do I want to do my accounting? Absolutely not. So there's going to be parts that you don't enjoy. And there's going to be parts that are definitely scary. Anytime you take a leap, it's scary. But there's no way to do it not scary. So you either do it or you don't. And we are big fans of doing
all the scary things. We need a shirt.
Right.
If you can just do one scary thing a day, do one scary thing a week. If you need to break it down, you can do it that way as well.
All right. So we had a few questions about like starting your own business, like how to start your own business type of questions. And I just wanted to point you to the very first episode of Crafting for Profit Live, because we dove really deep into our recommendations for where to start and where to start your craft business. So I was going to say head back to that very first episode because I think you'll find a ton of information there, unless you two have something to add.
Those are mostly scary things as well. Which I hate to say it, but a lot of those things you have to think about in the beginning. Like, yeah, you just want to make crafts. I mean, I get it. All I want to do is make crafts, but I had to learn how to get a reseller license for me, how to do a YouTube channel, like all of these other things because of the type of business I wanted to grow. Maybe you just want to do craft fairs. You're going to have to learn how to set up an easy up. right? Like there's just things you're going to have to learn. And a lot of it, there's so many courses out there, there's YouTube videos, there's all sorts of stuff, but a lot of times we just learn by doing. And so it's just taking that first step instead of thinking, I'm going to know everything before doing it. It's just learning as you go.
Yeah. And it's scary for all of us. Don't worry.
And just understanding that you don't know it all at the beginning. And so take one snippet that you've learned, figure out, this is what I was told in the beginning because we all run our businesses on social media. It's the way of the world. Don't feel like, okay, I need to do YouTube. I need to do Facebook. I need to do Instagram. I need to do TikTok. I need to do all of these things. Pick one and get good at that before you add something else. That's going to take a lot of the overwhelm away because you're going to get there. If you are consistent enough and you have enough belief in yourself and you believe in what you're offering the world, you're going to get there. But just baby steps. Just pick one thing and get good at that and then move to the next.
I think it's really hard not to play the comparison game too, especially in the beginning. See how far ahead of me all these people are. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I do it myself with Miss Angie sitting right here. I'm like, I'm never going to have a YouTube channel the size of Angie's YouTube channel. It's just never going to happen, right? But at one point, Angie's channel was the same size as my current YouTube channel. So who knows where things are going to go? I know that both Angie and I have compared ourselves to the incomparable Jennifer Maker, and she's one of our friends. But she has an enormous business with like 30 employees, and I cannot compare myself with my 3 employees to somebody who has 30 employees, and you who have whoever it is has no employees compared to myself, or compare yourself to me with 3 employees. And so it's just one of those things that you can really get bogged down with, like how everybody else is doing something. And I know that this is from a fact, this is just something that I do a lot, and I've had to really work to not do it as much. But really trying not to compare yourself is also a really great place to start. And just, as they say on Bluey, run your own race.
Yes. We all start at zero. And it's so easy. Sometimes you may see someone pop up in your newsfeed that you have never seen before. And you're like, where did this person come from? Well, that's not an overnight success. They've been around. And so we all start at zero. I teach my community to do a social media audit. And about once a week, I tell them to spend 15 minutes and scroll their feed. Now, my feed is filled with, I've been very intentional about customizing my feed to me specifically for my mental health and all of the things. And so spending 15 minutes going through your feed. And if you come across someone that gives you the feeling of, oh, why am I not there? Or they're doing better than me, then maybe hide them for a while, because you don't need that. It doesn't mean that you need to hide them forever. It doesn't mean that you can't learn from them. And it doesn't mean any of that. But you have to be very cautious of what you're putting into your mind, especially when you were trying to grow a business, because we are all perfectly placed right where we are right now. I mean, you are where you are for a reason. And that one is huge to me. We all start at zero, and you have to just take caution to what you allow in your brain.
So my favorite quote is, don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. That's my favorite quote now. That's my favorite quote. And I have to repeat that to myself still to this day. So like we all live in that place, that comparison game. And I love Beth's idea of sort of hiding those people for a while. So I get caught down the rabbit hole, right? So I see something they post and I go look at it, and then I go look at something else they're doing and something else. And like, why can't I have done all these things or be at this place or whatever? So yeah, I had to repeat that quote to myself several times.
And you've been in business how long?
Since 2010, so a while.
So, I mean, that's just a reminder that you don't get it figured out. Like you still have to constantly reconnect with home. Okay, this is what it is. And so.
All right. Did we see any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much, Beth, for coming on. We really enjoyed it. And for those of you that are listening, don't forget to check out Beth's shop. She's giving you 25% off anything. So whatever you're interested in her shop, you can get it. And that, once again, that's link.craftingcamps.com/Daisy. And the coupon code is crafting for profit, all caps. And we will link to that in the show notes and the YouTube description as well. So thank you, Beth, for coming on. And we enjoyed chatting with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. One of my biggest things that I have taken steps in the past couple of years is just putting yourself out there more. That's what's going to help grow you. That's the doing it scared. That's all the things. Like I said, that I have the book that I just wrote May 1st. And in February, I was sitting at my mastermind meeting and I was like, I want to publish it within a year. And I was like, it's done. They were like, how long has it been done? I'm like 3 years. And they're like, why are you just waiting? You're just sitting on it. Why? And so that was a doing it scared. And, things like this are doing it scared. I don't go on podcasts all the time. So I want to thank you guys for allowing me to be here. I truly appreciate it. And to everybody else, just get out there and do it.
Yeah. Trust us. Our first few podcast episodes were us doing it scared.
Absolutely. I still get a little nervous before we sign on here every time. All right. So in our next episode, which will be live on August 29th, we are chatting with Beth. I'm so sorry if I butcher your name, but we are chatting with Beth Eaton.
I think so.
I'm going to butcher it. I'm just going to say Bet. She's great. From Bet Makes, about starting and running a business in retirement. So we do know that we have a lot of people who are a little bit older, who are hitting retirement, who are retirement age. And Angie and I are younger than that right now. So we can't speak to that. And so we wanted to bring on somebody who could speak to starting a craft business in retirement. So we'll be talking with Bet next time. This is going to be a great talk, so don't miss it. It's going up August 29th. We'll be chatting live, and then it will be on all of your favorite podcast networks on September 2nd. How are we in September already? My goodness. We do have a newsletter. If you want to be notified, you can find that in the podcast description or in the YouTube description.
Now, if you have friends that are starting their craft business, starting a handmade business, or even like just a small business of any type, and they might be interested in this conversation about building a business with values, be sure to share this episode with them. We would greatly appreciate it. And as always, leave us ratings and reviews on your favorite podcast platform, thumbs up on YouTube. All of that supports us and is crucial to our success.